For the last quarter century, the grand chessboard of global power has been dominated by a single absorbing contest. American foreign policy, from the optimistic dawn of the new millennium, has been consumed by an overriding fixation: the rise of China. It began as a project of engagement. The prevailing wisdom in Washington was that by welcoming Beijing into the World Trade Organization and integrating it into the global economy, China would inevitably liberalize, becoming a responsible stakeholder in the American-led order. U.S. corporations eagerly built vast, intricate supply chains, creating an unprecedented economic interdependence. But over time, engagement curdled into competition. From the war rooms of the Pentagon, strategists watched with growing alarm as China undertook a massive naval buildup, asserting expansive claims in the South China Sea. To the boardrooms of Wall Street and Silicon Valley, the race for technological supremacy in AI, quantum computing, and telecommunications became the new front line. The central organizing principle of U.S. strategy became clear: to manage, compete with, and contain a rising Beijing. This has been a rational focus, an understandable response to China's extraordinary economic transformation and its rapidly growing military might. No other nation has challenged American primacy so directly in a century. But an intense, all-consuming focus on one object can create a form of strategic tunnel vision. It can warp perceptions, consuming all the oxygen in the room and leaving little analytic bandwidth for other emerging realities. Every international development, every alliance, every trade deal was viewed through the singular prism of the US-China rivalry. And so, while Washington stared intently east at China, a different kind of giant was quietly, methodically, and rapidly rising to its south. That giant is India. Its ascent is reshaping the global economic and strategic landscape. During the very same decades that America was fixated on China, India was undertaking its own profound, if less centrally directed, transformation. It kick-started a world-renowned IT services industry, unleashed a telecommunications revolution that brought mobile phones to over 1 billion people, and embarked on a massive build-out of national highways. It quietly laid the digital rails for the future, giving nearly every citizen a unique digital identity. This tectonic shift is happening in ways Washington did not fully anticipate and is still not fully prepared for. This is not a story of sudden, explosive, state-directed change in the mold of its northern neighbor. It is one of patient, cumulative, and often chaotic transformation, built layer by layer, reform by reform. India's rise is not an echo of China's. It is not a sequel. It follows a different path, driven by different forces, and guided by a different philosophy. It is the story of a democratic, decentralized, and digitally powered ascent that demands to be understood on its own terms. And for a world grappling with the limits of the old geopolitical map, understanding this new reality is no longer optional. It is essential. To understand the scale of the change underway, let us begin with the most fundamental measure of a nation's vitality: economic growth. Numbers can be dry, but in this case, they tell a dramatic story of momentum and scale that is impossible to ignore. In the fiscal year 2024, the Indian economy didn't just grow, it surged. Official data from the Indian government, corroborated by projections from institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, confirmed a growth rate of over 8%. To put that figure in perspective, it was the fastest growth rate of any major economy on the planet. While other nations contended with stagnation or modest recovery, India was accelerating, widening its lead as the world's primary growth driver. This was not an anomaly or a statistical blip fueled by a low base. It was the third consecutive year of growth exceeding 7%, a powerful trend demonstrating sustained economic expansion. This robust performance wasn't accidental. It was built on a foundation of strong domestic demand, a significant uptick in private investment, and a remarkable resilience in the face of global headwinds. While many countries battled runaway inflation, India managed to keep its price levels largely in check, creating a stable environment for investment and consumption. Furthermore, the composition of this growth is shifting. For years, India was known for its formidable services exports. That remains a pillar of its strength. but now it is being complemented by a steady and significant rise in manufactured goods exports, signaling a broadening and deepening of its industrial base. This dual engine of services and manufacturing is what gives the current growth trajectory its unique power and sustainability. It has firmly established India as the primary engine of global growth, a role once held exclusively by its northern neighbor, China. But to truly grasp India's economic weight, we must look beyond headline growth rates and nominal GDP figures. A more revealing metric is purchasing power parity, or PPP. Nominal GDP measures an economy's size using international market exchange rates, which can be volatile and often don't reflect the true cost of living. PPP, on the other hand, compares economies based on what their currency can actually buy at home. It measures the real volume of goods and services a country produces, providing a more accurate picture of its domestic market size and the living standards of its people. When measured by this more practical yardstick, India is already the world's third largest economy. Only the United States is larger. Only China is larger. For decades, India's economy was significant, but not in the same league as these global titans. That is no longer true. Its sheer size means that its high growth has an outsized global impact. It creates enormous demand for energy, raw materials, and consumer goods, driving investment from multinational corporations looking for growth in a slowing world. This gravitational pull is steadily shifting the balance of economic power away from the established centers in North America and Europe, and firmly toward Asia. A small economy growing quickly is interesting for economists. A massive economy growing this quickly is world-changing for everyone. This momentum is creating a powerful virtuous cycle. High growth generates the capital needed for massive infrastructure investment. We see this in the rapid expansion of metro systems in over a dozen cities, the construction of thousands of kilometers of new national highways under ambitious programs, and the modernization of ports and airports to improve logistics. This new infrastructure, in turn, reduces the cost of doing business, making industries more competitive and attracting even more investment. This cycle is also powering a green transition, with India adding renewable energy capacity at one of the fastest rates in the world, building a foundation for sustainable growth in the decades to come. More investment leads to more infrastructure, which enables more industries, which generates more growth. This is the engine, now running at full throttle. An economy is ultimately about people. India's advantage is perhaps its most profound and enduring. Developed countries and China face aging populations and shrinking workforces. India is experiencing the opposite. In 2023, India surpassed China to become the world's most populous nation. More importantly, India's population is overwhelmingly young. Median age: India, 28. Median age: China and the US, 39. This demographic structure is a powerful engine for decades of economic dynamism. Each year, India adds more than 10 million people to its working-age population. That's like adding the workforce of a medium-sized European country every year. A vast pool of labor for factories, a deep well of talent for technology firms, and an enormous, expanding base of consumers. This is the demographic dividend in action. India is investing in education and skill development, producing millions of engineers, doctors, and technicians. Growth is creating jobs that absorb them into the formal economy, turning today's surge into a sustained expansion. If demography provides the fuel for India's rise, technology provides the accelerator. But to truly understand the scale and speed of India's transformation, we must look beyond the familiar narrative of private enterprise. While Bangalore's startups capture headlines, the real story is a far more radical, systemic change. A state-led digital public infrastructure, collectively known as the India Stack. This is not a single product, but a set of open, interoperable digital platforms that act like roads and bridges for the digital economy. The foundation is Aadhaar, the world's largest biometric identity system, providing a unique digital ID to over 1.3 billion people. This identity layer solved the fundamental problem of proving who you are, a barrier that had excluded hundreds of millions from the formal economy. On top of this, layers like eKYC allow for instant, paperless identity verification, while DigiLocker provides a secure digital vault for official documents. Together, they slash the friction and cost of opening a bank account, getting a loan, or accessing government services. But the most revolutionary layer, the one that has reshaped daily life, is the payments layer. The centerpiece is the Unified Payments Interface, UPI. Launched in 2016, UPI is not a company or an app. It is an open, interoperable public utility. Think of it as a set of rules like TCP/IP for the internet, but for money. It allows any bank, fintech app, or digital wallet to communicate with any other on the network. This interoperability is key. It prevents the formation of closed-loop monopolies, where a single company controls both the customer and the merchant, as seen with platforms in China or the West. With UPI, the power remains with the user. The result is the ability to make instant, low-cost payments between any two bank accounts, using nothing more than a simple smartphone. This government-led initiative was designed to solve a national problem: the dominance of cash and the high cost of digital payments, which excluded the vast majority of small merchants and citizens. The impact has been nothing short of revolutionary. By 2024, UPI was processing well over 100 billion transactions a year, accounting for nearly half of all digital transactions in the world. Its volume now dwarfs that of major Western card networks like Visa and MasterCard within India, and in some cases exceeds the transaction counts of dominant platforms in China. Crucially, UPI was designed with zero merchant discount rate for small transactions. Unlike card networks that charge merchants between 1% to 3% on every sale, a prohibitive cost for a small vendor, UPI payments are free for both the customer and the merchant. This single design choice unlocked the entire informal economy. A tea vendor in a bazaar, a rickshaw driver in Mumbai, or a farmer in a remote village can now accept digital payments instantly, for free, without expensive hardware. They no longer need to turn away customers for lack of exact change or risk storing large amounts of cash. This simple act of payment creates a digital footprint, a verifiable transaction history, for hundreds of millions who were previously invisible to the formal financial system. This data trail is the key that unlocks access to credit, insurance, and other formal financial services. A small shop owner can now use their UPI transaction history to apply for a working capital loan from a fintech lender, receiving approval in minutes, not months. This is financial inclusion at a scale and speed never seen before. The government itself leverages this infrastructure to deliver welfare payments directly into citizens' bank accounts, plugging leakages that previously siphoned off billions in corruption. It's a system built for public good, not just private profit. This model represents a distinct third way. The state builds the foundational layers, the digital public goods, and private firms innovate on top, competing to offer the best user experience. It is a powerful alternative to the purely market-led privatism of the US and the state-controlled surveillance models of China. And the world is taking notice. Countries across the global south, from Brazil to the Philippines, are now looking to adopt this model of open, interoperable digital infrastructure. Through this API diplomacy, India is not just exporting technology, it is exporting a philosophy. It is setting new standards for how to build an inclusive, equitable, and empowering digital economy in the 21st century. For decades, India's technological identity was defined by its world-class IT services industry, managing back-office operations and software for global corporations. A significant achievement, but based on labor arbitrage. Today, that model is being supplemented by a more ambitious agenda, moving from services to products, from software to hardware, and from user to shaper. ISRO exemplifies the shift. Chandrayaan-3 executed a lunar South Pole landing at a fraction of Western costs, proof of advanced engineering and state capacity. This reflects institutional efficiency, project management, and systemic innovation. India is pushing for self-reliance in critical sectors, semiconductors and advanced electronics. Early stage, but drawing global and domestic investment. Startups are moving beyond e-commerce into AI, biotech, and defense, solving uniquely Indian problems with global applications. The result? A diversified, increasingly autonomous tech ecosystem. For a long time, the conventional wisdom held that India had missed its industrial revolution, a services-led economy that leapfrogged manufacturing. This view is now obsolete. A manufacturing renaissance is underway, driven by policy, infrastructure, and supply chain realignment. Global technology giants are setting up production in India. Companies like Apple and Samsung, with vast contract networks, now producing millions of smartphones and other electronics, not just for domestic demand, but for export to the world. This is the China Plus One strategy in action. Make in India and production-linked incentives encourage deeper localization of component ecosystems. Indian firms are upgrading aerospace components, automotive manufacturing, defense equipment, solar panels, and electric vehicles, supported by the most ambitious infrastructure build-out in India's history. India's economic and technological rise is paired with a distinct doctrine: strategic autonomy. This is not Cold War non-alignment. It is more muscular and interest-driven. India is a key member of the Quad with the US, Japan, and Australia, a counterbalance to China in the Indo-Pacific. At the same time, it engages the SCO and BRICS. It conducts major exercises with the US while maintaining decades-long defense ties with Russia. After 2022 sanctions on Russia, India increased purchases of discounted oil, citing energy security. Washington's public pressure was muted. This is deliberate multi-alignment, flexibility and leverage, core interests, regional stability, secure energy, access to critical technologies by engaging all sides. India is too large, important, and independent to be coerced. A complicated partner for Washington, cooperative on shared aims, divergent where interests differ. Why did this powerful transformation catch so many in Washington by surprise? Not a failure of intelligence, a failure of imagination. Binary logic shaped the American mindset: allies versus adversaries, democracies versus autocracies. India never fit comfortably in that frame. The world's largest democracy, yet firmly non-aligned. Strategic autonomy, ties with Russia, leadership in the global south, all defied binary expectations. An obsession with China consumed strategic bandwidth. India's rise was viewed instrumentally, as a counterweight, rather than as an independent phenomenon. Outdated images of poverty, bureaucracy, and dysfunction lingered long after the reality changed. Washington looked at a photograph from the past while a high-definition movie played in the present. The result was a slow-motion strategic surprise. The evidence is clear and overwhelming. A new great power is cementing its place on the world stage. Over 8% growth, a demographic dividend unique among major economies, a revolutionary digital public infrastructure, a rapidly industrializing base, over 100 billion UPI transactions, over 10 million new workers a year, relocation of sophisticated manufacturing by the world's top firms. This necessitates a fundamental rethink in Washington and other Western capitals. Unipolar and bipolar frameworks are over. We are in a truly multipolar system, and New Delhi is one of its indispensable poles. Treat India as it is, strategically autonomous, ambitious, and essential. Adapt policy to overlapping interests, maritime security, resilient supply chains, and frontier technologies. The map is being redrawn, with a bold new line to New Delhi.